My name is Sloane Hartley. I'm 31 years old and I need to tell you something that happened to me 8 months ago, something I still can't fully wrap my head around when I think about it at 3 in the morning, which I do more than I probably should. 4 days. My grandma spent 4 days whispering my name from a hospital bed while my own father stood outside her door and told every nurse, every doctor, every single person who walked down that hallway the exact same thing. She's not welcome here. She doesn't want to visit. She's too busy with her own life. And while he was doing that, he was also calling me every other day to tell me Grandma was resting comfortably, that everything was fine, that I didn't need to drive all the way out there. He lied to both of us. At the same time. About each other. When I finally showed up, because a woman I had never met in my life called me from a personal cell phone at 3:30 in the morning, my dad physically stepped into the doorway and blocked me from walking into that room. He looked me dead in the eyes and said 7 words I will carry with me until I die. She wants to say goodbye to real family. But a nurse named Beverly grabbed my arm, walked me fast through a back corridor I didn't know existed, and handed me something small and silver. An old flip phone. She pressed it into my palm and whispered, "Your grandma has been asking for you for 4 days straight. Your father blocked every single call. She wanted you to have this." What I heard on those recordings. I was dialing the police before I even made it back to her bedside. But before I get into that, if this story means something to you, if you've ever had someone in your family try to rewrite your history while you were standing right there breathing, hit subscribe. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I genuinely read every single one. Okay. Let me take you back 6 days to the night a stranger saved my grandmother's life. I'm walking home from Sunrise Memory Care on a Tuesday night. It's just past 3 a.m. My shift ended 45 minutes late because Mr. Calloway on the East Wing had a rough evening, and I'm one of those people who can't clock out and drive away when someone's upset. My sneakers are damp from mopping up a juice spill, and I'm pretty sure I smell like bleach and the lavender hand cream that Miss Dorothy insists I rub on her knuckles before I turn the lights off. My car has been dead for 3 weeks. Something with the transmission. The mechanic said the part was coming from a warehouse in Michigan, and every time I call, he says, "Could be Thursday." It's never Thursday. So I walk 31 minutes, door to door, through the quietest streets in Heron Bay, Georgia. And I let myself into my grandma's house, her house, the one she's owned since 1977, with the spare key she gave me when I was 9 years old and told me this key meant I always had somewhere to go. The house smells like vanilla and old books and something I can't name, a smell that just means her. She's been in the hospital for 6 days, and the place still smells like her, like she just stepped out to run an errand and she'll be back any minute. I'm pulling off my shoes when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. Area code 678. Local. It's 3:30 in the morning. I almost let it go to voicemail. Late-night calls from numbers you don't know are never good news, and I have had more than my share of bad news this year. But something in my gut, that little pull you get sometimes, made me pick up. Is this Sloane Hartley? Woman's voice. Older. Tight, like she was keeping herself together through sheer willpower. Who's calling? My name is Beverly. I'm a nurse at Heron Bay Regional. Honey, you need to come to this hospital right now. I'm talking right now. My stomach dropped about 6 floors. My grandma. I called my dad 3 times that week. Each time he said she was sleeping, she was stable. The doctors were pleased with how she was tolerating the new medication. He said there was no need to come racing over there. My father told me she was fine, I said. Beverly's voice went quiet for just a second. Then, your grandma is not fine. And the man who told you she was. A pause. He's not fine either. The line went dead. I stood in the middle of my grandma's living room at 3:30 in the morning with no car and a feeling in my chest like someone had knocked every piece of furniture sideways in the dark and I was trying to walk through it. Beverly had called from a personal number, not the hospital line. I know because I have Heron Bay Regional saved in my contacts. I called it 9 times that week. Every single time, the front desk told me the same thing. The patient's emergency contact has restricted visitor access. We're sorry, ma'am. Her emergency contact. My father, Victor. Let me tell you about my grandma. Her name is Evelyn Hartley. She's 78 years old, barely 5'2", and she has this laugh that fills up a room from corner to corner. She was a seamstress for 35 years. She made wedding dresses out of her spare bedroom, prom dresses, christening gowns, Halloween costumes for every kid on the block who showed up at her door. Her hands are small and quick, and when she holds yours, you feel like everything is probably going to be okay. My mom passed when I was 8. Aneurysm. Just here one day and gone the next. One morning she was making me pancakes and braiding my hair before school, and then one afternoon I came home and my dad was sitting on the front steps looking like someone had turned off all the lights inside him. He wasn't equipped for it. That's what Grandma always told me gently the night she carried my Dora the Explorer suitcase into her spare bedroom and said, "This room is yours now, baby girl. You can put your stuff wherever you want." I was 8 and I believed her. 23 years later, there's still a hook on the back of that bedroom door where I hung my backpack every single day from 3rd grade through senior year of high school. Dad moved on pretty fast. Met a woman named Pamela. They married within a year, moved 40 miles south to Fairmont. Phone calls got shorter. Visits got less frequent. Then they just kind of stopped. Grandma never once said a bad word about him. The closest she ever got was one afternoon on her back porch when I was about 16 and furious that he hadn't come to my dance recital. She set down her sweet tea and said, "Your dad's got things he's carrying, Cass. But you've got me. And that's plenty." And it was. She was up every single morning making me breakfast before school. Scrambled eggs with cheese every day, no exceptions, until I graduated. She drove me to community college registration and sat in the waiting room doing word searches. When I said I wanted to go into healthcare, she was the one who helped me fill out every single form for the nursing assistant program. 3 months ago, the tiredness that wouldn't quit turned into something serious. Stage 3 kidney disease with complications. I rearranged my work schedule. We had a system. I handled the daytime appointments. She called me every evening. We watched Jeopardy! On video chat, even though neither of us was any good at it. Then Victor showed up. Out of nowhere after 6 years of almost nothing. And in her nightstand, next to her reading glasses and a photo of my mom, Grandma had kept an old flip phone. "Just in case there's a power outage," she told me once. These smartphones are too smart for their own good. I never thought twice about it. I should have. I call my friend Danielle at 3:35 a.m. She's a home health aide, lives 3 streets over, drives a beat-up Civic that smells like fast food and cherry air freshener. She picked up extra patients for me last week when I couldn't concentrate. I hate asking for favors, but I hate standing still in my grandma's living room feeling helpless even more. "Danny, I need a ride to the hospital." "Girl, I literally just got home." "I know. I'm sorry. I wouldn't call if." 15 minutes. "Get your shoes on." While I wait, I do what I've been doing for 2 months. Call Victor. Once. Twice. 3 times. On the 4th ring, he picks up. "Sloan." His voice is flat. Not groggy. He hadn't been sleeping. Controlled. "A nurse from the hospital just called me. She said I need to come in." "What nurse?" She said her name was Beverly. Silence. Long enough that I could actually feel it. Then his voice went harder, like a door closing. "Nobody was supposed to contact you. I'm the primary contact. I manage all communication. That's been clearly established." I was gripping the kitchen counter so hard my knuckles went white. "Dad, is Grandma okay?" "She's resting." "She's fine. Go back to sleep, Sloan." Then why did a nurse call me at 3:30 in the morning? I said go to bed. He hung up. I stared at my phone. Danielle honked outside. In the car, she looked at me and said, "What's going on?" I don't know yet, but I know that voice. That's his voice when he's hiding something. She put the car in drive. We didn't talk the rest of the way. The lights of Heron Bay Regional appeared at the end of Highway 17, glowing soft and yellow against the dark, like a question I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. The hospital at 3:15 a.m. is its own kind of world. Fluorescent lights. The distant sound of a machine beeping in steady rhythm. Rubber saws on polished floors. Room 318. I saw it before I reached it. Victor was standing in the doorway. Arms crossed. Dress shirt, sleeves rolled up like he'd been there all day. Pamela sat in a chair to his left, holding a coffee cup and wearing the expression of someone who's been rehearsing what to say. Victor saw me coming. His eyes went over me, jeans, tired face, ponytail falling apart, and he didn't move. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to see my grandma." He tilted his head the way you do when you're about to say something you've been planning. When he spoke, it was loud enough for Pamela to hear, loud enough for anyone walking by to hear. "She wants to say goodbye to real family." I'm not going to pretend that didn't land. Not because I believed him. I didn't, not for a second. But because my own father just stood in a hospital hallway and told me I wasn't family, while the woman who raised me was on the other side of that door. Pamela shifted in her chair. "Honey, don't cause a scene. She's very weak." I stepped forward. Victor put his hand on the doorframe. "You're not on the approved list. I already talked to the hospital." "Check the file." A night shift nurse came over with a clipboard, looking uncomfortable. Victor turned to her with practiced, easy warmth. "She's not listed as an approved visitor. I'm the primary contact. You can pull up the records." The nurse checked. Looked at me. Looked at him. "I'm sorry, ma'am. She's not on the list." I backed away from the door. Through the wood, I could hear the monitor. Steady. Mechanical. Alive. My grandma was 8 feet away and I couldn't get to her. I leaned against the wall and stared at the ceiling, trying to pull myself together. I'm not a person who loses it in public. I work nights in a memory care facility. I have held the hands of people in their final hours while their families cried in the hallway. I know what it looks like to keep your feet under you when everything is collapsing. But this was different. This was mine. A hand touched my shoulder. I turned. She was maybe 55. Silver hair pinned back. RN badge on navy scrubs. Eyes that had seen too much to be rattled easily. "Come with me," she said quietly. "Don't say anything." I followed her through a side corridor, past a supply closet, around a corner I didn't know existed. We stopped at another entrance to the same room, 318, from the opposite side. She faced me. 4 days, she said. Your grandma has been calling your name for 4 days. Her blood pressure climbs every single time your father walks in. It drops back to normal the minute he leaves. She paused. I filed a concern with the hospital social worker 2 days ago. My dad told me she didn't want visitors. Beverly looked at me the way I look at families when I have to deliver hard news at work. Direct. Steady. No cushion. Your grandma cries at night because she thinks you stopped coming. She thinks you gave up on her. Something cracked open in the middle of my chest. I've been a nurse for 22 years, Beverly said. I know fear when I see it on someone's face. And your grandma isn't afraid of being sick or of dying. She's afraid of him. She put her hand on the door handle. Ready? I nodded. She opened the door. She looked smaller. That was the first thing I noticed. 2 weeks ago, the last time I'd seen her before Victor locked down the visitor list, she'd been thin but herself. Sitting up, making dry little jokes about the hospital jello, demanding to know why there was no sweet tea on the menu. Now she looked like a sketch of herself. Oxygen tube under her nose. For in her right hand, the hand that had hemmed 10,000 seams that had braided my hair before every school picture day, her eyes opened, red around the edges, wet. She saw me. Her mouth moved, and the sound that came out was so small and so broken it nearly took me out at the knees. Cassie. I was beside her in 2 steps. I'm here, Grandma. You came. Her fingers found mine. No strength, but all the meaning in the world. He told me you said you didn't need me anymore. He said you were too busy. I could feel my own heartbeat in my throat. 4 days. She had lain in this bed for 4 days believing I'd walked away from her because my father told her I had. And he'd told me she was resting peacefully. Grandma, I called every single day. Called the hospital, I called Dad. They kept telling me you were sleeping. They told me not to come. She closed her eyes. A tear ran down the side of her face into the pillow. Then she opened her eyes again, and they were different, sharper, focused, the way they get when she's measuring a hem and needs every angle to be exactly right. Listen to me, Sloane. I don't have a lot of time, and I need you to hear this clearly. She glanced toward the nightstand. Beverly stepped in without being asked. She opened the drawer and lifted out the old flip phone, silver, scratched, the one that had been sitting there for years. She gave this to me to keep safe 3 days ago, Beverly said. Right after your father took her regular phone and deleted every contact in it. I looked at Grandma. Press play, she said. I recorded everything. Starting from the day he arrived. 7 audio files. The first one dated 6 days ago. I pressed play. My father's voice came out of that little phone, clear as if he was standing in the room. Listen to me, old woman. You're going to sign this paperwork or I will find you the cheapest assisted living facility in this state. Kind of place where nobody ever visits. The kind of place people go to disappear. Then Grandma's voice shaking. That is my house. I've lived in that house for 45 years. Victor, cutting her off. You lived there 45 years ago. Now you're in a hospital bed. Who do you think you're preserving it for? For that girl? She's not even. A pause. He caught himself. She shouldn't get any of it. I stopped the recording. My hand was shaking against the phone. He almost said it. She's not even my own father, standing over a sick woman's bed, nearly said out loud what he'd apparently been thinking my entire life. That I wasn't really his. That I was some category below family that didn't have a name. I looked at Grandma. Her eyes were steady on mine. There are 6 more, she said. Listen to all of them. Then do what I can't do from this bed. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to my father dismantle my grandmother's life in 6 recordings. Recording 2, Victor on speakerphone with Pamela pacing the hospital room. Once she signs, we list the house immediately. Market's strong right now in that neighborhood. Pay off the second mortgage and we'd still clear enough too. Pamela's voice, tiny through the speaker. What about Sloane, Victor? Victor, what about her? Recording 3, Victor standing over Grandma's bed. Sloane's not coming. I called her this morning. She said she has her hands full. I could hear Grandma's small voice asking, She said that? Victor, her words, not mine. Recording 4, the rustling of papers. Victor's voice, impatient. This is just a durable power of attorney. Medical, financial, property. I handle everything. You won't have to worry about a single thing. Grandma, I want to talk to Sloane first. Victor, Sloane doesn't want to talk to you. Recording 5, Grandma refusing again. Chair scraping back. Victor, his voice going cold and quiet. Quieter than any of the other recordings, which somehow made it worse. You want to spend your last weeks in this room alone? 'Cause I can arrange exactly that. I'll walk out that door right now and I won't be back. Recording 6. This one made my blood go cold. Victor on the phone with a financial institution. Using Grandma's name. Her date of birth. Her social security number. requesting a wire transfer of $9,000 into something he called a joint family account. I knew every account Grandma had. There was no joint family account. Recording 7. Victor talking to a nurse I didn't recognize. Not Beverly. Someone else. My mother is starting to show some memory problems. Her granddaughter has a history of causing stress for her. If she shows up, please do not allow her access to the room. For Evelyn's sake. I set the phone down on my knee. I was on the floor. I didn't remember sliding off the bed. Grandma was watching me. I'm so sorry you had to hear that, baby. Don't apologize to me. I looked up at her. What do you need me to do? Protect the house. And protect yourself. Don't let him bury this. She gave me her banking login from memory. 2 years ago, when she was still healthy and the kidney numbers were just a little elevated, she'd added me to her checking account. Just in case I need help from a distance, she'd said. I pulled up the account. The balance 2 months ago, $62,000. A lifetime of sewing and saving and saying no to things she didn't need. Current balance, $41,000. $21,000. Gone. Transferred in amounts just under $10,000, structured carefully just under the federal reporting threshold. 3 separate transactions over 8 weeks, each one going to an account ending in 5573. That was not Grandma's account. Got worse. Her monthly pension, $1,600, hadn't deposited in 6 weeks. The routing had been changed. Someone had rerouted her direct deposit to a different account entirely. Grandma, did you change where your pension goes? She shook her head slowly. I asked Victor why the deposits stopped. He said there was a glitch with the bank system. I screenshotted everything. Every transaction. Every date. Routing numbers. I emailed them to myself twice. Then I texted them to Danielle as a backup. Beverly knocked on the doorframe. Sun's going to start coming up. He gets here every morning around 8:30. He always checks the room first. I looked at the clock. 5:20 a.m. 3 hours. I had 3 hours before Victor walked back through that door. And I was sitting in a hospital chair with $21,000 worth of evidence on my phone and 7 recordings on a little silver flip phone that smelled faintly of lavender hand cream. What I did in the next 3 hours was going to change everything. Okay, I need to stop here for a second. Because sitting in that hospital room at 5 in the morning, watching my grandma sleep for what looked like the first real sleep she'd had in days, I want you to understand something about me before I keep going. I am not a dramatic person. I don't make speeches. I don't enjoy confrontation. I go to work, I come home, I check on my grandma, I watch bad reality TV and eat cereal out of the box. That's my life and I like it just fine. But there is a massive difference between being easygoing and being someone who can be walked over. And my father was about to learn that difference the hard way. So let me ask you this. If you found out your own parent had been sitting beside a sick woman's hospital bed, a woman who raised you, who fed you, who kept the lights on for you, and threatening her, stealing from her, cutting her off from the one person she'd been calling for? What would you do first? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. All right. Back to room 318. Clock is ticking. I work the way I work at sunrise when something goes sideways on the overnight shift and the day crew isn't there for 6 more hours. Step by step. One step at a time. First, I transferred all 7 recordings from the flip phone to my own phone. Then emailed them to myself and Danielle. 2 separate backups. That little phone disappeared, the recordings didn't go with it. Second, I called Georgia Adult Protective Services, the Elder Abuse Hotline. It was 5:30 a.m. I left a message. My full name, Grandma's full name, the hospital, the room number, everything that had happened in plain, clear language. Third, I called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher was calm and professional. She said someone from the Elder Financial Crimes Unit would contact me that day. Fourth, I sat there and reminded myself that I have filed 2 elder abuse reports at Sunrise in 4 years. I know the language. I know the process. I know that the documentation matters more than the emotion. This time the patient was my grandma and the person hurting her was my dad. The steps didn't change. Grandma was asleep. Really asleep. Not the tense, interrupted sleep Beverly had described from the past 4 days. Her face had loosened. She looked, for the first time in weeks, like the woman who used to fall asleep in her armchair with a crossword puzzle on her chest and a cup of tea gone cold on the side table. I let myself have 20 seconds. Just 20. I thought about scrambled eggs. About the way she used to press the seams on my school clothes before the first day. About the hook on the back of the bedroom door. Then I stood up, squeezed her hand without waking her, whispered I'll be back, and walked out of room 318 before my father arrived. Danielle and I were in the hospital cafeteria. She bought me a biscuit I couldn't eat and coffee I drank too fast. By 8:45 a.m. my phone rang. Victor. I answered. You were in her room. Not a question. The voice from the recordings. I visited my grandma. Yes. Who authorized that? I'm calling hospital administration. I'll have that nurse's license. You can do whatever you want. I came to see my grandmother. A long breath. Then his voice went low and careful, the voice of someone who's used to controlling rooms. Let me be very clear with you, Sloane. You are currently living in her house. That house is going to change ownership very soon. If you want somewhere to sleep next month, I'd think hard about the way you're acting right now. I didn't say a word. But my phone was recording the call. Georgia is a one-party consent state. I'd looked it up at 5 a.m. He took my silence for fear. He kept going. She's sick. She's confused. She says things. Nobody's going to take the word of a woman in that condition over mine. I don't need anyone to take her word, I said. I just need the truth. I hung up. Danielle was staring at me across the table. Was that your dad? Yeah. Girl. She set down her coffee cup. Are you okay? Better than I've been in 3 months. My phone buzzed. A new voicemail. Local number, county code. Detective Renee Okafor from the Elder Financial Crimes Unit. She could meet me at the hospital that afternoon. Clock was still ticking. But now it was ticking for Victor. I want to pause here and tell you about a phone call I got that same morning. Around 10. My great-aunt Barbara, Grandma's younger sister, 68 years old, lives in Atlanta, sends me $20 Amazon gift cards for Christmas because she says she never knows what young people want these days. Sloane, sweetheart. Her voice was careful. Victor called me last night. He said you showed up at the hospital and made a scene. Aunt Barbara, Victor blocked me from seeing Grandma for 4 days while she was calling my name. He said Evelyn is very fragile and that any excitement could. She thought I abandoned her. She was crying for me. Silence. Then, but Victor said he's managing the medical side of things. He said you have a tendency to be, she stopped herself. I just think y'all should sit down and talk this through as a family. Aunt Barbara, I love you. But I can't fix this inside the family when the family is the problem. She went quiet for a long moment. I just think, she said carefully, that Victor is trying his best. I hung up as gently as I could. Then I sat at the kitchen table and understood something clearly. Victor had already made his calls. To Barbara. Probably to my cousin Jerome in Savannah. Probably to half the people who knew Grandma's name. And he'd told them all the same version. Sloane is unstable. Sloane is dramatic. Sloane is the problem. I'm the one holding everything together. He'd built the wall before I'd even known there was a wall to build. But I didn't need my family to believe me. I needed Detective Okafor and Adult Protective Services. And I had an appointment in 2 hours. Detective Renee Okafor was not what I expected. Late 40s, natural hair, reading glasses on a beaded chain. Handshake like she meant it. She'd been with the Elder Financial Crimes Unit for 9 years. We met in a small conference room at the hospital. I laid everything out on the table the way I'd present a patient incident report at work. Not dramatically, just step-by-steply. 7 audio recordings on the flip phone. The recorded phone call from Victor that morning where he threatened me about the house. Bank statements showing $21,000 in structured, illegal transfers. 6 weeks of rerouted pension deposits. Beverly's documented concerns. The hospital's social workers report. Detective Okafor listened to the first 2 recordings without changing her expression. She wrote without stopping. "These recordings are legal," she said. "Georgia is one-party consent. Your grandma was a party to every single one of these conversations. They're fully usable in court." She looked at the bank records. The transfers are structured to stay under $10,000. That's deliberate. It's a pattern we see specifically to avoid triggering reporting requirements. She paused. "What you've brought me today is enough for probable cause. I'll need a court order for the full transaction history, but this..." She tapped the folder. "This gets us started." She came with me to see Grandma. Evelyn told her everything. Dates, amounts, exact words Victor had used. Her voice shook, but her memory was sharp as a tack. Detective Okafor recorded the statement. Beside the room, she turned to me. "I'm opening a formal case. Financial abuse of an elderly person. Identity fraud. Possibly elder abuse." She studied me for a moment. "Is there anything else coming up I should know about?" I thought about what I'd seen on Facebook the night before. Victor had posted a soft blue background, praying hands, asking the whole town to come to a prayer vigil at Grace Baptist Church that Saturday evening in honor of Evelyn Hartley, a woman who had given her whole life to the community. "My father is hosting a prayer vigil Saturday night," I said. "About 300 people are expected." Detective Okafor looked at me for a long moment. "What are you planning to do?" "I'm planning to show up." A beat of silence. Then, quietly, "I've worked this unit for 9 years. The charming family member who swoops in at the end, I've seen this pattern more times than I can count. You bring me whatever you get." Friday night. The house is quiet the way it only gets when the person who fills it up is somewhere else. Grandma's sewing lamp is still on in the living room because I can't make myself turn it off. I sit at her kitchen table, the round oak one she's had since before I was born, and I prepare. I copy every recording to a USB drive. Print the bank records, the transfer dates and amounts and routing numbers. Put everything in a folder. My phone buzzes. A number I haven't seen in about 8 months. Darius. Darius is 24. He's Victor and Pamela's son. We've got the same father and basically nothing else in common. He grew up in Fairmont being told I was the favorite, the one Grandma chose over his dad, the reason his father carried so much resentment. We've never been close, but we've never been enemies either. Just 2 people on opposite sides of a family fault line, nodding at each other across the room at holiday dinners that happened less and less. "Sloan." His voice was quieter than I remembered it. "Darius." A pause. "Dad told me you've been stirring stuff up at the hospital. Is that why you called?" Another pause. Longer. "No." He exhaled. "Look. Something's been off with him. Like way off. He's been stressed and angry and desperate in a way I've never seen before." And he stopped. Started again. "He lost his job 11 months ago. Got let go from his regional management position. Something with the expense reports. Mom didn't tell anybody." I closed my eyes. There it was. Piece I'd been missing. Victor didn't come back to Heron Bay because Grandma got sick. Came back because he was broke, he was desperate, and he saw an opportunity. Do you have any of this documented? I asked. I've got something better. He was quiet for a second. I found something in his home office last week. I didn't know what it was at first. I do now. Are you coming to the vigil tomorrow? Yeah, he said. I'll be there. I hung up and sat in the quiet for a long time. Saturday night. Grace Baptist Church. White siding, red front doors, stained glass that throws colored light across the parking lot in the evening. Grandma hemmed the choir robes here for 12 years. She made the altar cloth by hand in 1998. There's a small plaque on the wall near the entrance that just says, "Thank you, Evelyn Hartley." By 7 o'clock, the pews were packed. I counted at least 250 people. Neighbors. Old friends of Grandma's from the sewing circle. Women she'd made wedding dresses for. Teachers I recognized from elementary school. The man who runs the hardware store on 5th, Grandma had patched his work uniform for years. Miss Geraldine from 2 doors down, who Grandma used to send soup to whenever she had a cold. Victor stood at the front in a gray suit, freshly pressed. Pamela beside him in a black dress. His eyes were slightly red, which, I had to hand it to him, was an impressive touch. Pastor Dr. Ronald James stepped to the pulpit first. Deep voice, silver at his temples, known Grandma for 30 years. Tonight we gather for Evelyn Hartley, a woman who dressed this congregation, who made beauty with her hands, who showed up for this community quietly and consistently for 5 decades without ever once asking for recognition. Then Victor walked to the microphone. My mother is the strongest woman I've ever known. His voice wavered in exactly the right place. When she got sick, I didn't hesitate. I dropped everything and came home because that's what family does. Heads nodded. Someone in the 4th row was already crying. Mama taught me that family shows up. And tonight, family is here. Applause. Warm. Sincere. Real. The back door of the church opened. I walked in wearing dark jeans, a white button-down, hair back. Folder in my left hand. Phone in my right. Darius slipped in behind me and stood near the back wall. The nearest pew creaked as someone turned to look. Then another. Then the ripple moved through the whole room like a current. Victor was still at the microphone. His smile froze. Didn't disappear, just locked in place the way a computer screen stalls before it crashes. I walked up the center aisle. Not fast, not slow. The way Grandma taught me to walk into every room like you've got a right to be there, so act like it. Victor recovered. He leaned into the mic with a warmth that would have fooled anyone who hadn't heard those recordings. Sloan, I'm so glad you could make it. I stopped at the front and looked at Pastor James. Pastor, I'd like to say a few words about my grandma. James looked at Victor. Victor's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He had to. Saying no to me in front of 250 people who loved Evelyn Hartley, that would crack the whole thing open before he was ready. I stepped to the microphone. Victor passed close to me. He kept his voice barely above a breath. Don't embarrass yourself. I looked at him. I'm not the one who needs to worry about that tonight. I turned to face the room. 250 faces. Candles along the windowsills. Choir loft. The altar cloth Grandma made with her own hands in 1998. I set the folder on the pulpit. My grandma, Evelyn Hartley, is lying in a hospital bed right now. I found that out 6 days ago, not from my father, but from a nurse named Beverly who called me from her personal cell phone at 3:30 in the morning because she couldn't stand what she was watching anymore. The whispers stopped. The whole room went still. For 4 days, my grandma whispered my name from that bed. She thought I'd abandoned her. Because my father told her I was too busy to come. And he told me she was sleeping peacefully and didn't want visitors. I paused. He lied to both of us. At the same time. To keep us apart while she was dying. Victor stepped forward from the side wall. Sloan, you're upset. You're grieving. You don't know the full. I raised one hand, palm out. Clear, not aggressive. I'm not finished. I turned back to the room. But my grandma isn't someone who gives up. She's a seamstress. She's been stitching things back together her whole life. And when she realized what was happening, she prepared. I held up the phone. Volume all the way up. My father's voice came out of that little silver phone and bounced off every wall in Grace Baptist Church. You're going to sign this paperwork, or I will find you the cheapest assisted living in this state. The kind of place where people go to disappear. Not a single person in that room moved. I played the next one. Victor on the phone with a financial institution using Grandma's name, her social security number, requesting a $9,000 wire transfer. Victor lurched forward. That is out of context. She was confused. You don't. Victor. Aunt Barbara was standing up in the third row. She'd driven 3 hours from Atlanta, and I hadn't even seen her come in. Her hands were fists at her sides. Her voice was shaking but steady. That is your voice. Pastor James placed a firm hand on Victor's shoulder. Victor. Sit down. Candles on the windowsills flickered. The silence in that room was the heaviest thing I've ever felt. Victor pulled away from Pastor James. His face was red, not embarrassed, not sad. Cornered. I'm her son, he said, louder than he meant to. I have the right to manage her affairs. I have the right. The right to what, exactly? Miss Geraldine was standing up from the end of the fifth row. 74 years old. Voice like she was calling her kids in for supper from half a mile away. You haven't been here, Victor. You've been gone for 6 years. Sloan is the one who took Evelyn to her appointments. Sloan is the one who sat with her during the diagnosis. Where were you? Murmurs moved through the pews. Heads nodding. The hardware store owner stood up. Big man, hands rough from working. Evelyn told me 3 months ago that someone had been using her credit card without her knowing. I thought she was mixed up. I should have listened. Victor was scanning the room now, looking for one face that still believed him. He didn't find it. Pamela tugged his arm. We need to leave. Right now. Victor turned toward the side door. Then he saw Darius. Darius was standing in the back, near the door he'd come in through, arms at his sides. He had something in his hands, a folded piece of paper. His eyes were red. He wasn't moving toward his father. He wasn't moving at all. Darius. Victor's voice broke. Let's go. Come on. Darius looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at me. He held up the folded paper and walked it to the front of the church. Set it on the pulpit in front of me. It was a credit card statement. An account opened in Grandma's name without her knowledge 3 months ago. $1,400 in charges. Darius had found it in his dad's car. Victor and Pamela pushed through the side door. It swung shut. Through the window, I watched Pamela walking fast across the parking lot, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Victor stood on the church steps for a long moment, shoulders down, staring at the ground. He didn't look angry. He looked empty. I turned back to the room. Thank you for coming tonight. My grandma deserves to know that this community loves her. That's all I came here to say. I stepped away from the pulpit. What happened in the next 30 minutes was something I don't have the words for yet. Miss Geraldine reached me first. She held on like she was making sure I was still standing. The hardware store owner took both my hands. I should have believed her when she told me. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Aunt Barbara stood in front of me and couldn't speak for a full minute. Then I believed him. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have called you. It's okay, Aunt Barbara. It is not okay. Her voice was fierce. But I'm here now. Pastor James pulled me aside near the back. Any statement you need from this church, any witness account, you come directly to me. Then people I barely knew. The woman Grandma made a prom dress for in 2003. A man who said Grandma took in the hem on his wedding suit for free when his tailor canceled the week before the ceremony. They didn't all say the right things. Some didn't say anything at all. But they stayed. And staying was enough. Darius was last. He walked up after the crowd had thinned out. We stood together in the aisle between the pews. "I'm sorry," he said. "You don't owe me sorry. You owe yourself a decision about who you are." He nodded, swallowed, looked at his feet. In the car afterward, I called Detective Okafor. 250 people just heard those recordings inside a church, I told her. A beat of silence. "I know," she said. "I've already received 4 calls from people who attended." I pressed my head against the cold window. Danielle pulled out of the parking lot and the white church got smaller in the side mirror, its red doors glowing under the streetlight. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 6 days, the pressure behind my ribs eased up. Just a little. Just enough to breathe. Sunday morning, I drove to Regional in Danielle's car. She'd left me the keys with a text that said, "Don't argue. Just put gas in it." The hospital was different. No security guard outside room 318. No clipboard check at the elevator. The front desk nurse looked up when I signed in and said, "Go right on up, Miss Hartley." They'd updated the visitor list overnight. I opened the door. Grandma was thinner than yesterday. Her breathing was slower. I could hear the spaces between each breath getting wider. But when she saw me, something lit up in her face, something deep and real, past tired, past sick. Recognition. "Hey, Grandma." "Cassie." She patted the bed. "Come sit." I told her about the vigil. I kept it simple. The church, the candles, the recordings playing out loud, Victor leaving, the town standing up. She listened with her eyes closed. When I finished, she asked one question. "Barbara came." "She did." She cried. She said she was sorry. A soft sound, almost a laugh. "She always believes the wrong person first. But she's got a good heart." A pause. "She always comes around." She reached for my hand. Her fingers folded around mine, no strength left but all the intention in the world. "You don't need the house, Cassie. A house is just wood and windows." She opened her eyes. "But I want you to have it. 'Cause I didn't build a home in it for me. I built it for the one who would stay. I didn't do any of this for the house." "I know, baby." The ghost of a smile. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Her eyes drifted shut. I sat with her while the afternoon light moved across the floor. Beverly came in, checked vitals, looked at the 2 of us. She didn't say a word. She just nodded at me and slipped back out. Some things don't need language. Monday. Detective Okafor called at 8:45 a.m. Case is officially open. We're pursuing financial abuse of an elderly person. That's a serious felony in Georgia. Identity fraud. Elder abuse-related charges. The bank court order has been approved. What happens next? A judge issued a temporary protective order this morning. Your father is prohibited from contacting Evelyn or entering the hospital or her property. P.S. has a parallel investigation running. The bank has frozen all outgoing transactions on Evelyn's accounts pending review. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote it all down. 21,000 in illegal transfers. Frozen. Being flagged for full recovery. 6 weeks of rerouted pension. Deposit corrected back to Grandma's account. Victor's fake credit card account in Grandma's name, reported to the card issuer by Darius, who'd also submitted a written statement. Nobody was calling Victor a devoted son anymore. Then Pamela called. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family?" Her voice was shaking. "We are barely keeping our heads above water, Sloan." You don't know what the last year has been like for us. Pamela, I understand you're drowning. I genuinely do. But drowning doesn't give you the right to hold someone else's head underwater. Silence. He lied to me too, she said quieter. About the job. About how much he'd already taken. I didn't know all of it. I believe you, I said. And I hung up. My hands were steady. Grandma's sewing lamp was still on in the living room. I left it on. Tuesday afternoon, a knock at the front door. Darius. Backpack over one shoulder, dark circles under his eyes, jaw set like someone who's made a decision and isn't walking it back. Pamela kicked me out, he said. I told her I was going to keep cooperating with the investigation. She said I had to choose. I looked at him for a moment. 24 years old. Victor's chin. Grandma's eyes, something I hadn't noticed before. Come in. We sat at the kitchen table. He ran his hand over the worn oak surface and looked around the room, at the framed photos, at the sewing cabinet in the corner, at the small things that told the story of a life. I've never been here before, he said quietly. I know. He had more documents. Another credit card statement, charges from the past 2 months. A voicemail he'd saved of Victor asking him to say, if anyone asked, that Grandma had approved the transfers herself. I called Detective Okafor. After the call, Darius leaned back in his chair and looked at the ceiling. Mom told me to pick a side, he said. But I didn't pick a side. I picked the truth. I looked at my half-brother sitting in my grandmother's kitchen, holding evidence against his own father, and I thought, she would have liked this kid. You hungry? I asked. Starving. I made scrambled eggs with cheese. Grandma's recipe. We ate at the table and didn't say much, but the quiet between us was the comfortable kind. Wednesday morning, 5:47 a.m. My phone rang. I already knew. Darius drove. He didn't ask where. He just grabbed the keys and went. The roads were empty. The sky was barely getting light. Neither of us said a word. Aunt Barbara was in the hallway when we arrived. The nurse told me she'd been there since midnight. Drove 3 hours from Atlanta in the dark and sat in a plastic chair and waited. Room 318. Grandma was still. The oxygen tube was gone. The 4-line had been removed. Her hands were resting on the blanket, small, quick hands that had stitched 10,000 seams and braided my hair and held mine through every hard thing. Her eyes opened when I took her hand. Just barely. Just enough. She looked at me. Then at Darius. Then at Barbara. The faintest movement at the corner of her mouth. Not quite a smile. Something older. Something full. Full house, she whispered. Barbara took her other hand. Darius stood at the foot of the bed, one hand on the rail. I felt her letting go. Not all at once. Gently. The way you set something down when you're sure it's in the right place. The monitor beeped slower. Slower. Then one long, steady tone. Beverly came in. Looked at the clock. Wrote on the chart. Then she looked at me and gave me the same nod she'd given me the first night when she opened the side door and let me through. I didn't fall apart. Not in that room. I cried later, out in the hallway, on the floor with my back against the wall, the way you do when you've been holding something together for so long and the reason to hold it together is finally, gently, gone. Beverly found me there. She sat down right next to me on the floor. Didn't say a word. Just sat. 1 month later. I'm standing in the doorway of the house Evelyn Hartley bought in 1977. The round oak kitchen table. The sewing cabinet. The framed photos. The hook on the back of the bedroom door. It's mine now. Not because I asked for it. 'Cause 8 years ago, when Grandma was healthy and clear-headed and the kidney numbers were just slightly elevated, she sat down with a lawyer and signed a will. Witnessed, signed with a notary, airtight. She left the house to me with a handwritten note in the margin, for Sloane, who stayed. Victor was formally charged last month. Financial abuse of an elderly person, serious felony under Georgia law. Identity fraud. His first court hearing is in 3 weeks. Pamela filed for legal separation after she found out how much he'd hidden from her, not just about Grandma but about their own finances going back years. Darius works the morning shift at a coffee shop on Maple. He comes to dinner every Sunday. We eat at the round oak table and we don't call each other family yet, but last week he helped me fix a dripping faucet, and when we were done he looked around the kitchen and said, "I feel more at home here than I ever did in Fairmont." That's close enough. Aunt Barbara comes on Saturdays. She brings pie. We sit on the porch and talk about Grandma, her laugh, her terrible taste in game shows, the time she accidentally sewed her own apron pocket shut and spent 20 minutes looking for her car keys. I still work the overnight shift at Sunrise Memory Care. I still walk home at 3 a.m. I still let myself in with the spare key she gave me when I was 9, and the house still smells like vanilla and old books and something I can't name. I never spoke to Victor again. Not out of hatred. Not out of forgiveness. Just silence. Quietest boundary is the one you never have to explain. That's my story. My grandma couldn't fight with anything but a beat-up flip phone hidden under her pillow. She couldn't block doors or make phone calls or walk out into the world and defend herself. So she fought with the one thing nobody could take away from her. The truth. And she made sure I was the one who heard it. If there's one thing I want you to walk away with, it's this. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be aggressive to be strong. You just have to refuse to look away. You just have to keep showing up, at 3 a.m. if that's what it takes, for the people who showed up for you. If this story hit different for you, if it reminded you of someone you need to call or a fight worth having or a truth you've been avoiding, leave me a comment. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a pretty good time. There's another story in the description. I think you're going to need to sit down for it.